The Chicago Bulls get an overtime victory to avoid a 3-game losing streak, but unfortunately, Coby goes down in that same game. We're going to talk about both those things. We're going to talk about Nikola Vucevic's recent comments on defense and how that kind of compares to Alex Caruso's recent comments on making an all-defensive team. We're going to do all that, plus preview the game tonight going down against the Clippers. All that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go and get into this content for today. And so the Chicago Bulls get an OT victory against the Indiana Pacers, the most high-powered offensive teams in the NBA. And while it all wasn't sunshine and rainbows, the Bulls allowed the Pacers to go on several unanswered runs in this game, but the Bulls showed that heart to get back in the game every single time that happened, and that's what you want to see from this team. DeMar DeRozan with 46 points. He becomes third all-time in the most 45-point games in Bulls history, which is crazy to think that he's number 3 overall and behind only Michael Jordan and Zach LaVine, considering he's only been here 3 years. So you got to give up some credit for DeMar DeRozan and what he's been able to do here. And that kind of goes back to what I said in yesterday's video. DeMar DeRozan's play has earned him another contract. Doesn't mean he's going to be with the Chicago Bulls, though, but not 46 points, 9 rebounds, 2 assists in this game. DeMar DeRozan completely filled up the stat sheet and was everything that the Bulls needed to be. Right, when you look at the first quarter, of course, it was Ayo Dosunmu with those 9 points. And then DeMar basically took over after that and played pretty consistent in the fourth quarter. Him and Coby White were really going off in the fourth quarter of this game, really, kind of lifting up the Chicago Bulls to the place where they needed to be. And, Coby unfortunately goes down. We'll talk about that here in a second. But, it was DeMar and Coby in that fourth quarter that put the Bulls in the situation to even go into overtime. You also got to look at Alex Caruso having his first 20-point game since November 2023. He also chips in 7 rebounds, 7 assists, 5 3-pointers made from Alex Caruso in this game. Ayo Dosunmu with 20 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks, filling up the stat sheet. And then, like I said, Coby White, who was really starting to get in his rhythm in the fourth quarter, he scores 7 points in the fourth quarter of his 15 points, just really stepping up for the Chicago Bulls in that fourth quarter before, unfortunately, he goes down on a block from Pascal Siakam where he lands awkwardly. Pascal also lands on his leg. It was not a dirty play. It was actually a really good athletic block done by Pascal Siakam. Just the aftermath of it was unfortunate in that time. But, Coby White, 7 of his 15 points scored in just the fourth quarter. He was 3 of 6 in that fourth quarter, really seeming like he was about to start getting rocking and rolling. But unfortunately, he goes down in this game. And so this is one of those games where you really look at the Chicago Bulls, you look at the way that they were able to play and come together in this game. They were getting out-rebounded in the first half of this game and then still came back to win the rebounding battle. They were out-rebounded 25-21 in the first half. They finished the game overall out-rebounding the Indiana Pacers by only 1, but they still came back in that rebounding battle. They won the fast break point battle as well. So they played extremely solid in the way that you want to see this team play. 56 points in the paint by the Chicago Bulls today because they were attacking the basket and getting out there in transition when they could, when it made sense, and they were finishing really strong. No Javon Carter in this game. When you look at the minute split, Ernolat with 13 minutes, basically. Julian Phillips with 11 minutes. You also had Torrey Craig leading the Chicago Bulls in minutes off the bench with 21 minutes and 57 seconds. He scores 10 points. Andre Drummond plays right under 10 minutes in this game, and Dalen Terry plays 5 minutes. But this is a game where I really was looking for Andre Drummond to kind of put his imprint on the game, and he did on a couple of possessions, but overall it was bad Andre Drummond last night, but he still helped the team. Every player, for the most part, hit a big shot last night. Even Nikola Vucevic, whose stat line 12 and 12 isn't going to amaze you, right? He was 6 of 14 though, so over 50% there, right under 50% there. He did go 0 of 4 from 3-point range. We already know Vooch stopped shooting so many threes, but he hit a key shot in the fourth quarter of this game to help the Bulls and to push them into overtime as well. So everybody had their role in this game. And this was one of those games where the Bulls played as a team, yes, led by DeMar DeRozan with those 46 points. Amazing night from DeMar. But everybody stepped up and had a part in the Bulls winning this game. And that's what you love to see from a Chicago Bulls team. Now, of course, they got questions to answer. No days off. They come back home tonight to face off against the Clippers, which we'll be previewing that game here in a second. But DeMar DeRozan last night reached 32nd all-time in scoring. And after the game, he was asked by Casey Johnson about it. And he said this.
Season high 46 points for you tonight. I updated you pregame about passing Elgin Baylor. You got them all tonight.
Confidence finest, boy.
We'll just say confidence finest. What I wanted to say is he a bad man.
You got them all tonight. You got Elgin Baylor, you got D. Wade, and you got Adrian Dantley in one game.
Did I? Man, it's just an honor to be on that list with those greats, to be able to still be playing at a high level, having fun.
And just DeMar just continues to just be good for the Chicago Bulls, right? Like I said in yesterday's episode and even on the post-game show last night, yes, DeMar has his flaws. We all know this, right? Defensively, being one of those big ones. But what DeMar was brought here to be, he wasn't brought here to be a defender. He was brought here to be somebody to help be a closer. He was brought here to be someone to help a young team, even younger at that point in time, who didn't really have players that were used to stepping up in clutch moments, to be that factor that can get the Bulls a bucket when games were close. And he's done every single bit of that. And so, shout out to DeMar for this performance. I know it had to feel great, despite losing Coby White at times in this game. And yeah, man, it's always fun. The Bulls always know how to make it interesting, don't they? And that's what they did last night. They made this an extremely interesting and fun game to watch. And the way that the team performed, man, you got to give it up to this team. They now go back to 2 games below 500. And those Eastern Conference standings are still close overall, and the Bulls are going to need every win possible to put them hopefully in a situation to be able to hold on to it. Now, they do have a 2.5 game advantage over the Atlanta Hawks, thanks to the Atlanta Hawks losing to the Portland Trail Blazers last night. So that helped create a little bit more separation for the Bulls. The Hawks were right there behind the Bulls. But now with the Hawks on a 2-game losing streak, it's even more important that the Bulls find ways to continue to get wins over this time, which may be a little bit more difficult with what happened in last night's game. And Coby White, I already kind of described the play. Get it going down on a nasty block, falling hard, and having Pascal also fall on top of him. He immediately grabbed his kind of upper thigh hip area afterwards. And for the credit, Casey Johnson did say that Coby White was laughing with his teammates and walking around the locker room after the game, but he will have an MRI. Billy Donovan, he said this yesterday. It looks like it's his hip right now. I don't have any more detail than that. I know in Chicago he's going to get examine what that is. I'm not quite sure whether it's x-rays or MRI. It's the hip they believe, but they don't know the extent. So that's what Billy Donovan said to reporters after the game. And so it's going to suck if the Bulls lose Coby White for an extended period of time. We already know what Coby White has meant to the Chicago Bulls team with his level of play. And just overall, he's been the Cinderella story for the Chicago Bulls in the way that he's been able to step up this season, right? It's been great to see the way that Coby White's been playing, averaging 19.5 points per game, 4.7 assists per game, 4.7 rebounds per game, 5.2 assists per game, doing that on 45% shooting. And the fact that we're going to lose that now, right? That we have the potential to lose that, it's definitely scary. You don't want to overlook that at all. So, we'll see what Coby White, what it ends up being the diagnosis. But if Coby is going to be out, he's averaging 21 points per game on basically 50% shooting so far this month and 42% shooting from three-point range, taking 7 3-pointers per game. If the Bulls are going to miss Coby White's production, it's going to have – there's no player that can just step up and give the Bulls that. They're going to have to do it by committee, right? And even like Ayo Dosunmu, Alex Caruso, both scoring over 20 points. You get 10 points again from Torrey Craig, right? And then if you have to now move another player from your bench, be it a Torrey Craig or anybody else, you're even weakening that bench production that already, as I said in a couple videos ago, is the Chicago Bulls' Achilles heel. It's a huge concern there to how long we're going to lose Coby White, right? And the injury looked bad. Let's be clear. It looked terrible. So, if it is anything serious and Coby White is going to miss some extended time, the Bulls have some tough questions to answer. Now, we talked about it a little bit on the post-game show last night, in which I said that if Coby is going to miss a week, is going to miss 2 weeks, whatever that ends up being, right? You have to, at that point, think about and consider if you're going to shut him down for the rest of the season. I know people don't want to hear that. Hell, I don't want to say that. Let's be clear here. I don't want to say it, but at the end of the day, you have to think about the health of your player first, right? That's the most important thing. And Coby White has been so important to what the Bulls are doing. The last thing that I want is to anything that's going to hurt his offseason, so to say. So again, this could all be for naught. He can get his X-ray, his MRI, whatever it ends up being. He can get that today. And then next thing you know, they're saying, oh, he's going to miss a couple of games with soreness. He'll be back. And if that's the case, that's fine. But if it is anything that's going to be lingering, if it is anything that has a risk of being re-aggravated over the course of the season, in my opinion, considering where the Bulls are, considering how important Coby White has been for whatever the Bulls have been and will be in the postseason, you gotta seriously consider. You got 16 games left. And over those 16 games, you have to seriously consider asking yourself, is 16 games and a couple of games in the play-in tournament worth it? And that's not up to me, right? I'm not saying that's not up to me. That's up to the coaching staff. That's up to the front office. It's up to the doctors to decide what to do with Coby White. And I know that Coby isn't going to want to hear that. Hell, I wouldn't want to hear that if I was a competitor, right? This is coming from the same person who did 1,000 episodes and then said, hey, I'm going to take 3 days off. I haven't taken a single day off since then, right? So I get it. And while I'm not trying to compare podcasting and playing on the basketball court, you get it, right? But it would suck to lose Coby. And it would really add to yet a season that's just been through so much turmoil. Losing Zach LaVine for the rest of the season, only getting like 25 games out of Zach. Losing Torrey Craig for the extended period of times that we've lost Torrey Craig. Losing Patrick Williams for the rest of the season, right? At times, Alex Caruso this season. DeMar Vucevic have all missed games this season. So, it would absolutely suck. And, prayers up to Coby. Let's hope that it isn't anything that's going to linger and last. And like I said, best case scenario, gets an MRI. It's a severe sprain. He sits out a game or two, maybe the rest of this week, and he's ready to go next week. And, Coby was on pace. He's played every game for the Chicago Bulls, hasn't missed a single game, and leading the league in minutes overall at that time as well. And I know while I've talked a lot about that article that said that increased minutes don't necessarily increase the chance of injury, because that was just a freak accident, right? That's not one of those exhaustion injuries or anything like that. It does suck that if it were to end that way, and we'll see how it goes. I know everybody kind of has PTSD when it comes to point guards for the Chicago Bulls and injuries, especially when it's the leg area, right, with injuries. But prayers up to Coby. We're gonna think the best, right, until we know. And then you guys know, once news drops on what Coby White's situation is, I'll be dropping a video to update you guys, and let's hope that it's not right up into the game, which they've done sometimes. I expect it to take a while. They're flying back from, I probably just drove back from Indiana, but yeah, so we'll see what happens with that, man. And hope, like I said, prayers up to Coby. Let's hope that it's not anything extended or that it lasts a long time and that Coby White can get back on the basketball court and continue being what he's been for the Chicago Bulls. But with that said, I want to talk a little bit about something I was asked about. We know that the snippet came out, right? And Gilbert Arenas, about a week or so ago, talked about European players and blamed them for the lack of defense in the NBA. I thought that was a foolish statement. While there was some truth rooted in it, to blame that just on the European part of the game is just a fallacy, right? Extending defenses, those type of things really impacted that. But Nikola Vucevic was asked about it. He said this: I have nothing to say about that, but I think it's very hard to play defense in the NBA. Part of it is the change of the rules where a lot of it was favoring the offensive players. With the three-point line now and everybody shooting so many threes, you have at least 3 to 4 guys that can just shoot threes and get hot at any time. Now, naturally, a lot of Bulls fans, especially that have watched Nikola Vucevic play defense, and especially after the pick-and-roll game defense, completely took that and was like, what the hell are you talking about, Vuce? Now, here's what I'll say. A lot of what he said is true, right? The added spacing in the game, if you watch for now, like basketball now versus even early 2000s basketball, the spacing is ridiculous. Like, right, to think what like a player like Michael Jordan would do with the spacing that we have now. Hell, even Kobe Bryant, right? What he would do with the modern spacing in the NBA is crazy. And it has added so much more room to have to guard things at when it is a type of pick and roll type situation. But it kind of comes back to those things that it comes down to the messenger as well, right? And Vooch, a player who, like I said, when he plays Jokic, when he plays Sabonis, when he plays some of these other European centers, he plays great defense, on-ball defense. And Vooch has always been a solid on-ball defender. Pick and roll defense, especially with the drop coverage, it's always going to put him in a terrible situation. It just is what it is. He's never going to look good in that. And I do think that Vooch with like earlier NBA, early 2000s spacing would be much better with his length and things like that. But ultimately it comes down to effort. That's what defense comes down to. It comes down to effort more times than not, right? Solid on-ball, team defense, they're very different things, right? You can be on-ball defender or off-ball defender. You can be a solid team defender. And Vooch, and a lot of times, fails at all three of those, right? If anyone that he does excel at over any of the other ones, it is on-ball defense. That is why his defensive rating for his career isn't terrible, because he does play solid on-ball positional defense. But when you get to switching, when you get to pick and rolls, when you get to those type of things, Vooch gets exposed at. And so, a little bit of that, I understand where it's rooted at in the basketball sense. And I know a lot of people don't break down basketball at that. They're not watching and thinking about spacing when they look at it. They look and say, hey, you gave up a drive on a pick and roll. It's terrible. What are you doing? And that's valid too, right? I'm not saying that that's not valid, but it comes down to the messenger who says it. And yes, playing defense in the NBA has gotten more difficult with the spacing, with the versatility and how many different players are shooting. And how now you have to worry about, especially on some teams, 1 through 5 having the ability to stretch the floor. Hell, we got killed by Miles Turner going off from 3 last night, right? So it's those type of things, but I think it comes down to effort. And to kind of bring all that together, right? Because I with the win and things like that, I don't want to leave it on the negative and talking about it. Alex Caruso was asked about, making all first team defense yet again. And he said this: it's important to me, but at the end of the day, I know I'm one of the best defenders in the league, whether it's recognized or not. It would be cool, obviously, and making a first team last year, I was pretty proud of that. I think having the respect of the guys I play against and the guys I battle against every night, telling me that they enjoy playing against me because it's a challenge and it's competitive, that is just the as important as having a first or second team all defensive award. So the two different mentalities when it comes to defense. Alex Caruso's all effort. And when you look at the way in Alex Caruso's path to getting to the NBA, right, going through the G League, working his way up, being such an integral part of that Lakers team that won the title, you respect the Alex Caruso, what he says and how he does hang his hat defensively, right? And even coming into this season, though, and saying he wanted to find a way for his offense to match his usual defensive intensity. And for his credit, he's found a way to do that. He's done that. And you got to give credit to Alex Caruso. And Alex Caruso is one of the best defenders in the NBA, period. That just is what it is. He gives the effort of that. He holds himself accountable to that expectation. And that's great to see, because that is the type of leadership, that's the type of work ethic you want rubbing off on your young players as well, right? So, again, while the Nikola Vucevic comments, people rightfully so took some issue with it, I also wanted to talk about why we have one of the best defenders on our team and one of the players that helps build a little bit of the defensive identity that the Chicago Bulls do have, right? And Caruso, for his credit, 9.7 points per game this year, shooting the ball 46% from the field and 38% from three-point range. It was over 40% before he went on a recent slump. He's also taking 4.5 three-pointers per game, the most in his career, while hitting it at the third highest, percentage of his career. Alex Caruso is everything that you want, and you see why the Chicago Bulls valued him so high, to where if they were going to move him at the trade deadline, they were asking for 2 first-round picks, because Alex Caruso is that type of player who's a culture builder and changer for your team. That's why so many teams want him. But we're back at it tonight. We got a game against the Clippers tonight. And again, we just did this story, right? So we know what the Bulls have to do if they want to take advantage of the Clippers and just play good defense. Now, here's the thing. If Coby White does miss this game, which is highly likely that he's going to miss this game, it's going to make it even tougher for the Chicago Bulls, right? It's going to make it tougher for this team to find a way to match with the Clippers. You don't want to get caught behind. Now, the Clippers only average 116 points per game. That's crazy, too, when you think about it, that we're saying that only 116 points per game nowadays. That's just a wild thing to say, that like 10, 12 years ago, you wouldn't expect to say only 116 points per game. But anyway, they allow about 113 points per game. So the Bulls are going to have to lock in defensively. You now know, right? And the versatility in the pick and roll that the Clippers can do with their versatile players, that's what makes the Clippers such a tough team to guard more times than not. Yeah, they got James Harden. Yeah, they got Paul George. Yeah, they got Kawhi Leonard, who is listed as day-to-day. James Harden also is listed as day-to-day. So they're listed right now as questionable to play against the Chicago Bulls. I think they were listed as that again. All 3 of them were listed as that before we played them last time. So it's safe bet that they're going to probably play in tonight's game. But the Bulls got to be locked in this game. And the game plan has to be elite defensively. And you have to rebound the ball. You have to rebound the ball better against the Los Angeles Clippers, or you're going to get yourself behind the 8 ball. Limit their opportunities at possessions by getting more possessions yourself. And to do that, rebound the basketball, people. Rebound the ball. That's all we're asking you to do, right? Rebound the ball, play solidly. We need better play from Drummond and Vooch in this game as well. DeMar, especially if Kobe's going to be out, he's going to carry a lot of that offensive load. And we'll see if Ayo and Coby can really, Ayo and Caruso can really step up and help DeMar DeRozan tonight, because it's going to be needed against this Clippers team. You cannot take a day off against this Clippers team. And considering the last performance you gave on the floor of the UC, I hope the Chicago Bulls ride some of that momentum from this overtime victory last night and ride it into the game tonight so they can get this win. Let's hope that can happen for the Chicago Bulls, man. And at the end of the day, it comes down to execution, coaching, and pride. And hopefully the Chicago Bulls have those things ready to go tonight against the Clippers so that we can be talking about a dub yet again tonight. Let's hope so. Let me know your guys' thoughts, as always, down below. If you're on the YouTube side, if you're on the podcast side of things, I'll tell you how to get your thoughts in here in a second. Make sure you're following the show at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, number to do so, 773-270-2799. Again, get those voicemails in. I want to hear from you guys. It's one of the best things about the show is hearing from your guys' and your guys' thoughts. 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See red if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.